Okay.
Good morning to all. Good morning, no, good afternoon. It's just that, I'm just still a bit weird with all these time changes. So, good afternoon to all, and welcome again to Tell Me Over Coffee, Cuéntamelo con un café. Our guest of today was born in Surrey, England, and brought up in the USA and South Africa before his family returned to Essex in the late 70s. Following college stint at okay, I'm not very good sometimes at
Chelmsford.
things. Chelmsford and Leicester, he embarked on a career in computer business, completely different to what he does now. This, however, was short-lived, as he spent much of his time indulging in travel, outdoor sports, and creative pursuits, including music, painting, and photography. Taking advantage of the digital video revolution, he began making sports promo and documentary films in 2004, developing a mix of handheld techniques melded with evocative static compositions that hallmark his style today. When directing actors, he often employs improvisation to add realism and dynamism to his work. He's my man. I just love improvisation. His award-winning documentary, Gentlemen of the Night, was screened theatrically, the latest on his 10th anniversary to Packed the News. His short film, Keep Up If You Can, was selected from 3,500 entries for Rutger Hauer's I've Seen Films International Internet Contest in Milan. His debut feature, Do Something Jake, was premiered in September 2018 to rapturous applause at the packed Odeon Cinema in the Midlands, UK. These films were followed by experimental thriller Agent Kelly, cybercrime thriller Cyberlante, and horror Hood. How do you pronounce this?
Sorry, which one's that? I've forgotten my own resume.
Surveilled. Horror
Veiled, yeah.
Wooded. Well, you'll tell us what that means because I don't know. I'm sorry. The later two films shot using smartphone technology and adapted lenses. We're going to be talking about that too. Our guest and the Raya Films team, which is the production company, are now taking things to the next level with Casting Kill and Hitchcockian smart horror, which is now in pre-production and scheduled to shoot this 2021. James Smith, please people don't get it wrong with Sam Smith like I do. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not Sam Smith because I haven't got that singing voice, but yeah, you make me sound really interesting. Then it's thank you very much for the introduction. I was actually when I was looking through all your questions and the preparation material, I was thinking, Yassmine Othman sounds like a very interesting person with a multicultural background, an actress and a presenter, and I was trying to find ways of making myself seem quite interesting, but I think you've kind of done it for me there, haven't you?
Well, you are interesting. I mean, what I find interesting is it is a great thing when you're young and you already know from the very beginning what you want to be and who you want to be in life. But it's even more interesting when you go one path and all of a sudden you just turn completely.
Yeah, that's right. I think when I was thinking about this earlier on, actually, our life, scarily enough, is like a timeline, isn't it? And as you go along it kind of seems to pick up pace, doesn't it? But if you rewind, normally there's a point where something changes, or there's a point at which you kind of think that was the point at which I took a different direction. And indeed, with what we were doing, Caroline is the screenwriter producer who I'm partnered with, and years back we decided we'd take this different path. And it's I think when I think carefully about that timeline that I've just described, I think it was back when I was working for my parents, who run a property marketing company in Spain. Actually, I started doing photographs for them, stills photographs and blogs and handling their website and things like that, and then Caroline was helping with databases and things like that. And we were trying to escape our former jobs, really. I was a software engineer, which had its good points, but I'm not really an office person, and either is Caroline, who was doing accounts and administration kind of work. So we were looking for more creative pursuits, and that's when I started to take photography more seriously. And then, of course, the video revolution happened, where the cameras got smaller, and it went from being like TV type cameras more to like film cameras, which were affordable. So, I'm trying to pack a lot in here, but I think what I'm saying is that, that point at which we latched onto a different direction was where it was my mother's business, which was overseas property, bizarrely enough. Yeah. And then got embroiled through that in a television program, which was being shot in Tenerife. One of these property programs where people go around with a camera crew and they're trying to sell the house. Not my kind of thing, but anyway, the long and short of that is that Caroline got involved through my mother as being the estate agent, because the real estate agent in this television program didn't want to do it for whatever reason, didn't want his face on film. So we can read into that what we will, but I think, it was an experience, and we thought, wow, it's going to be really exciting, and they're going to be with this television crew, and we're going to be doing interesting things. So I was basically just a driver, and Caroline was following this film crew around. But as it transpired, it wasn't that exciting, really, because they weren't. They were a British crew, and they were, most TV crews are really hard working, and it's a tough job. But they were, let's say they were taking their time with the shoot, with the cameras, and the boom operator was strolling around, having a look at things. And we introduced them to this great hotel in Tenerife, a local hotel, Spanish or Canarian. And they didn't really want to go to that one. They actually wanted to go to a British hotel further down the road, which was much more expensive, 5-star thing. So we started to be particularly not impressed with them, and also, anyway, eventually, there goes the phone. Eventually, deciding to, perhaps have a go at ourselves at making some kind of program. So we got involved at that point in documentary-style filmmaking on a small scale, just to try our hand with these new video cameras which came out. So that was pretty much the beginning of our entry into this business.
As I usually ask these questions to all my guests, that in this industry, which is an uncertain industry, a very sacrificed industry, that sometimes you put in a lot and you get a return of much less than what you put in. Have you always had the support of your family?
Yeah, definitely. I think, that's one of the great things, is that my mother and father have always really supported me. And I've read a lot of books, actually, recently, autobiographies of people in the film business who have not had that. So I feel quite privileged, really, to have that support. And as I say, I was working in some capacity for my parents before we got into this business. So they were supportive. However, they must have wondered what we were getting into, as indeed we did at some point. We were wondering, exactly where this is going to take us. But and certainly my parents obviously a bit older and concerned, and that concern continues to this day. I think it's a very risky business. It's hard work, and people will try and attack you or criticize you, and that's the nature of the beast. But we do it for some reason. I think that reason, as you probably know, Yassmine, coming from an artistic background yourself, is that you've kind of got it in your blood or you haven't. And I think a lot of people try to buy their way into this industry or talk their way into it, but you ultimately, I think, if you're going to do this, it needs to be in your blood, and you need to know that you want it or want something out of it.
Yeah, you really, it's such a hard industry that you really do need to be very passionate of what you do, because otherwise you can't. It's unbearable, emotionally and mentally. It's unbearable. You can't go on because it's even worse than I don't know. I mean, that you're working as a I don't know, computer like you. I mean, like a computer engineer, and then all of a sudden the company just lays you down, and then you have to find another job. I think it's easier to find another job of what you used to do than to find another job as a film director.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just
so difficult.
It's really, really tough. I mean, I mean, it's interesting. Some people in this business are surprised at how tough it is. And on Twitter and places like that, people are saying, I've had a really hard day in the business, and I've done an 18-hour day or a 12-hour day, and then I've got to work tomorrow and all that kind of thing. But how is that different from any other business? Is what I always ask people. If you're working in a cafe, you're going to be up early, getting everything ready. And in Spain, especially, they work really hard at that. Mm-hmm. And Europe generally, if you're a surgeon or up at that level, or an airline pilot, it's going to be really hard work. And why is the film business different? People seem, shocked to me sometimes, like how tricky it is to, first of all, get some kind of position in the business and then to continue. In fact, that's the point. It's often the case that people dabble and have their first experience in the film business as a director or a makeup artist or whatever it is, an actress, actor, and then it stops dead. So it's one, you've got to make a start, and two, you've got to continue. And it's not an easy equation, and there's no predefined route that you can take. Everyone has their own direction, and you can't always force it, I don't think, but if people have a very specific point in the film business whereby, in a year's time, you're going to be winning this award or making this film or lifting the Oscar and all that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It's a good goal to have, but it may or may not happen. And the question is, if it doesn't happen, how will you respond to that? How will you respond to failure and hard work and all setbacks, and as well as all of the business stuff? Like any business, you've got your personal setbacks and crises that need to be managed. So I think, although it's very interesting, very creative, and a lot of fun, it's a real job. Really, really tough. Probably one of the toughest jobs you can do to make a success of it. And Caroline and I are hanging on, and we're making some kind of noise, and we're certainly making progress. But we're doing it in our own way. I think there are competitors and people who some people want to do what we're doing, but I don't think perhaps they realise that what goes on in the behind the scenes, as it were.
I mean, just like you said, it's a really hard industry to make a success out of, but it's even harder to live out of.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have to make a lot of sacrifices, and I think that's where things can break down. So you need to have I think actors really need to be very mentally and physically tough. Often, mentally is the mental side of it is the main thing, because when people, I think the audition process is really tough, and I don't think I could do that. I mean, I've done some stuff in music, and that's pretty brutal. But the audition process is just next. In that film La La Land,
it's great.
It's a good. I like the film. A lot of people don't for some reason, but I love it. And the way that the actor comes in and then they dismiss her immediately is almost painful to watch, isn't it? But it's quite common.
It is. I mean, obviously, that's really also, as I told you off screen, that one of the reasons of these interviews is for everyone to understand, not only spectators but also professionals of our industry, what it takes. For instance, in auditions, an actor to prepare their audition, and then they audition, and in less than 5 minutes they say, okay, next, and you're there saying like, oh my God, I mean, I've been preparing the whole week for this, or 2 days ago, and all my effort and sacrifice and everything's in here, and you're just treating me as if I'm just a number. I mean, next. And it is, and as you said, in La La Land, it's just how it's explained, and it's true, because I mean, thank God that not all casting directors are like that, and not all auditions are like that. But in in a global majority, I would say yes. So
Yeah,
now,
I mean,
yeah, because I find that it's true that it's never the same doing an audition in person than doing a self-tape or doing it online. But I think that for the actor, it gives the fact or the thing of doing it online, or a self-tape, it really comforts the actor and gives them all that confidence to be able to do a great audition, because the actor doesn't have that pressure there. Firstly, the actor doesn't have the pressure that outside he's been sitting or she's been sitting with about 10 or 20 other people. That's the start.
yeah.
And then when you go in, you know that the casting director has a timeline and has to have this done by the day. So he or she is not going to be with you for however long you want to. So it's going to be a 10-minute, 15-minute maximum audition. So you have that pressure too. So, it's just a whole bunch of things.
It's a big deal, for actors to go to
It is.
auditions. And I mean, we have this conversation all the time with actors. They go up to London or down to London, and they spend their time and their money getting there and coming back, and then eventually they get the call, or they don't get anything at all. And that's the other thing. We always email if people have sent us self-tape or they've done an audition. We tend to tell them fairly swiftly if we can. But the auditions, in terms of the live auditions and the self-tapes, it's a bit of a funny situation, because I think I've lost you. No, I think I've lost you, Yassmine. Are you there? Yassmine is gone. I wonder if I'm still live. Hello, everyone. Well, let's just wait to see if Yassmine comes back.
Hello, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I felt very lonely there for a minute.
I said, okay, I left. I didn't like what he was saying. No, no, I'm so sorry, everyone. Please excuse me. I'm very, very sorry. Oh, Lord, thank God I was
great. I felt lonely and scared there for a minute. It was great.
Okay, now you know how we all feel. Okay, no.
Exactly. Yeah, I was just going to say,
how actors feel. Okay.
Absolutely.
No, it is true. It is true. There's one thing. It's quite curious. You first started in the business with sports video promos, and then you moved to documentaries, and finally you moved to fiction film. All three are quite different. How was the transition, and why so?
Well, we kind of found our way, I think, is what is the answer to that, really. I mean, I think documentary was and sports promos and that kind of thing. They were intrinsically tied to the world of television, or at least corporate video as well. But the television side of things, we never felt too comfortable with, just the way that programs were commissioned. And the sports promos and that kind of thing were more commercials and commercially oriented kind of films. But so anyway, Caroline had always been writing screenplays, and they were showing great promise. So we kind of drifted more into what we felt was more comfortable arena, which was full-length feature films. And originally we weren't, this thing about me being the director wasn't in the mix, really, because I was just sort of helping Caroline to read some of the screenplays, and we were pitching them to some pretty big producers in Hollywood and in London, and they were quite impressed, and we were moving forward. But that's a common story, is we never quite got the big sort of contract or commission, if you like, because they want to see more of your background. They want to see directors who are well known attached, actors who are well known attached, all that kind of thing. So it's the same old story. So and the other problem was we kind of like to do things on our own terms, which is not be dictated to how, in terms of creatively, in terms of the ideas, structure of the screenplays, and so on. Because this is a subjective business, and although there are many so-called experts in the business, they often produce films now, in my opinion, which are substandard in terms of the screenplay alone. And although everyone's saying the screenplay is the crux and the basis of feature films, which they are. Often, if you see a Hollywood feature film that has been made, or a really big film, the screenplay isn't that great. So what happened to the great screenplay idea? So anyway, rolling back a bit, we decided to develop. We were fully comfortable with the nature of feature films and the commitment to that field, and we felt that the writing was strong enough, so we pursued that area. The people in television are a different crowd, really, and I think a lot of them are hardworking and great. But it's not. I've never been a great fan of the television format. My family were watching television in the 70s and 80s, well, 80s and 90s. I was off doing something else, or I watched some television, but it was the feature films and going to the cinema and the big screen that really excited me, not so much television. Same with Carol, I think. So that's how we ended up doing these crazy independent films, which we hope the films that we produced so far are the start of just really going for it and understanding the fields and making them no matter what, whether we've got money or not money for them. It sounds bizarre, but that again, it comes down to how do you get into the business, and usually it's just doing it is the answer to that. As you well know, as an actor, sometimes you have to take a risk and go for miles for an audition. You may or may not get it, or do a film that's low paid or not paid. Sometimes, I've seen some interviews with great cinematographers, and they said they did loads of work, unpaid work at the beginning, just to get into the business. And this is
just like us actors too. I mean, it's at the beginning, it's experience, really. You need experience, and the only way sometimes to get this experience when you're not in the media is to do it for free.
Yeah,
it's not a crime. It's just that you have to. I always say it's not a crime to work for free, but you have to control it. You have to control that, since you're doing it for free. And there are certain conditions that need to be done, especially contracts. There are contracts for free jobs made by directors and actors that if that project goes well and flourishes, I mean, you have to have your part too. I mean, it's not, and we're not just going to do it. Hey, I mean, it's not that we are two colleagues that we're not doing anything. Hey, how about if you take your iPhone and we do something? No. That's not the point, because if the project is going to go to festivals and things, it has to be well tied, even if I'm doing it for free.
Yeah, that's right. And it's such a difficult area because
it is.
I mean, a lot of actors, in the past we've done projects where no one's been paid. Either myself or Caroline have not been paid, and everyone said, right, let's just make this film, and it's going to be really interesting. It's on our track record, so we've done it. And we did it, but in Britain, there is a school of thought where no one should do anything unless they're paid. The problem with that is it can restrict the practice of filmmaking if you're not careful, because you have to speculate. If you're coming from nowhere, if you've got no experience, or if you've got an idea but no money, and you can spend 20. I know people have spent 20 years looking for film finance and never got it, and all that happens is you just get old then. So you've got to go for it. As you quite rightly say, Yassmine, is select those projects which you think are of value and which you're not being exploited in any way. Exploitation is not where we're going with this. It's speculating, having a go, and understanding the position that other people are in as well. So an actor might say, I can't do this anymore because I'm not being paid. But if the director and the producer are also, who are often on set, much longer, and the crew as well, if they're not being paid, then you have to look at their point of view as well. So I think it's in answer to this conundrum. I think there are many different ways that you can get into the film business, but it won't always be through what people consider to be the formal correct way, because I don't think there is. I think many people have got into the business by speculating in different ways. I mean, if you look at the music industry, it almost does it. I mean, they're trying to protect artists, rightly so that they don't get exploited. But often the case, a band has played in a pub or a bar for many years. and all they get at the end of it is a drink, and they're happy doing that because that gets word around, say in London, and then they can, if they're lucky and if they're hardworking, go off and earn better paid performances, and then maybe hit the big time. But it's the nature of the beast a little bit. But people in the film business are a bit more. They don't think about other art forms, jazz, painting, all sorts of music, other performing arts, where people have to have a go and have to start somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, unless you are Scorsese's son, which I don't think so, you have to start from the bottom, and you have to make your way up, and that's how we all start. So, and sometimes even if you are Scorsese's son, it's not easy to go up because comparisons and this and that. Or it also depends on your dad. If your dad just says, "Hey, don't even mention my name," then it's even hard. So that's the thing.
Well, I think I do admire actors who have famous parents. I mean, if you look at Lily Collins or some of those Michael Douglas, Michael Douglas has carved out a very different career than his father, and it's just amazing, astonishing success. But actually, not born of just having a helping hand from his father's fame, but through real talent and ability and hard work as well. I mean, I don't know about the guy, his background or anything else, and I'm not but what you see in terms of his talent and ability is unquestioned, regardless of where he's come from. That's another thing. There are actors and filmmakers who try to buy themselves into the business, and it catches up with them. You might be able to make some kind of progress initially with that philosophy, but if you've got that underlying ability and commitment and all those other things, money won't save you in the long run.
Yeah, true. Okay. What do you like most, writing or directing, and why?
I prefer directing, really, because for feature film or for film, because I'm not so good when it comes to writing screenplays. I tend to be far too detailed. And I have written a novel called Andalouth Blood, which is sort of set in Andalusia, actually. And I enjoyed writing that because I basically had a rough structure of the story. And I just wrote, it's about a guy who comes from England and gets into all sorts of trouble with drug smuggling in Spain. And I just kind of wrote what I wanted, really enjoyed the writing, but there was a lot of detail. And then I put the end at the end of the book, put it online, and people seem to like it. But that's really not the way to write a screenplay, because you have to be an expert at summary and really look at things objectively for the technical format that is film, which is completely different to reading. And you kind of have to be almost anti-descriptive in screenwriting and leave it to people's imagination in order to give them cues as to where the story is going and dialogue, very good dialogue, and then that will lead them somehow to the end. It's not something I'm particularly comfortable with. So directing, strangely enough, I kind of feel comfortable with, because I also have no fear of it, or the technical side of it doesn't really worry me. A lot of people make a big thing about what the director does and his or her approach and all of this kind of thing, but I'm quite comfortable that there is a process and a formula which is very artistic and very creative, and it's got many facets to it, but it's not something that really worries me. And so when I wake up in the morning, I'm not nervous about directing, like a lot of directors are. It doesn't really worry me. The stresses and the time pressures and all that, but that's a different thing,
That's great. Out of all the projects you have written and or directed to today, which one is your favorite and why?
Well, I think our debut feature film was Do Something Jake, which is crazy film, zero budget, effectively. So we got a group of people together in Leicestershire, which is bang in the middle of England. And at that time, we'd we tried to make a film a year earlier, I think, in it, and we it just didn't work out. We couldn't get the logistics and the locations right, and the acting talent wasn't right, and so it was a bit of a disaster. But we decided, well, we can't just give up, so we'll try and make another one this time. That previous one, we were trying to shoot it in Spain, but this Do Something Jake was shot in Leicestershire, and we just went for it with a great band of people who just were running around this town in Leicestershire in November in the rain, and running into cafes and hairdressers and all these improvised locations to make this zero budget film. But it was fun. I think it was fun when I look back, because it was the first proper film that we started shooting. We went through all of the ups and downs and all the difficulties, got to the end. We made it. We then had 2 or 3 years of horrendous problems in post-production, but we got it done, and then we had this big premiere with all these people in this huge theatre, and that was quite an achievement. And I think really that's probably my favorite at the moment, because it just demonstrated that it was possible, against all odds, to go for it with practically no money and borrowing lenses and cameras and having really enthusiastic, great people right the way through to people clapping in the theatre and having a beer afterwards. And we'll take that. It didn't win any Oscars, but in the level, when you think about the astonishing achievement of that for the people involved, to actually make a film that is anyway near watchable on practically zero budget, when in the UK even a subsidized sort of film, that's independently distributed, it would be, it could be anything like $1 million or $2 million upwards. So to make something with practically zero budget was an astonishing achievement. And yeah, that was great. The other ones I enjoyed too, especially Cyberlante, which was filmed on a smartphone, and that was born again of another project that was aborted because we had problems with the crew the camera department, who got ever so fussy about spending hours looking at lighting conditions in other people's properties, which we did not have time for. So at the independent, practically zero budget level, people don't realize that you have to work quick, and it can be nerve-wracking. And you're not in film school with your friends or stood around trying to work things out. You've got to get in, you've got to shoot it, and you've got to get out, even if the light's changing, and you're going to have to work around it. So Cyberlante was good because we just used a little phone camera, and we were running around muddy fields, and I had a great team on sound and some good actors. And yeah, Caroline was improvising the screenplay, writing it as we were going along, because, as I say, it was born of another aborted project. So basically what I'm saying is this kind of arena that we're in is managing chaos, and on practically zero budget. We always make sure that the films are insured, so that we make sure that people are safe, and we're not asking them to jump out of buildings or anything like that. But we have the basics in place. We have food and catering, make sure it's an insured project and that people enjoy themselves. And then we try and just finish the film, and that's how we've got through this, I think. So yeah, Do Something Jake and Cyberlante were really good.
Any project that you have regretted doing, or that was not satisfactory for you?
Yeah, loads. I think. How honest do you want me to be? I think. I
want you to be very, very honest. I mean,
yeah.
It happens in the best families. There are things that you think it's going to be great, and then it turns out that it wasn't what you expected.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've filmed a whole feature film that just we were not happy with. This is the one that was shot in Spain, and we just didn't think it did justice to the screenplay or the people involved, really. But I don't regret anything I've done, really. I don't have that kind of mindset, because it is very true what they say, that you do learn more from your mistakes than you do from your successes. And had we not had a number of failures and problems and traumas over the years in making these films, then I don't think we would be as well set up to make Casting Cure, which is our next film, very different kind of production. And so I haven't been to film school, and either has Caroline, and we needed to learn somehow. Indeed, there are many top filmmakers who have never been to film school. I'm not advising that people don't go, but it's not a prerequisite to be good at this. I think you just need to understand what you're getting into and do some research, or indeed what we do practical experience by having a go. And then not, and if you haven't got any experience, there's probably very few people who are going to give you a lot of money unless they're somewhat misguided.
True. I mean, for everyone who is watching and who will be watching later on, you've heard James name Caroline so many times. Well, Caroline is the other half of Raya Films. She's the writer, she's producer, and she is the wife. So it's great because voila, they both support each other in this artistic life, which is great and easy because, I mean, you know, neither one has the excuse to say, hey, your job is not that busy. Well, it is, because they both work in the same thing. So they already know how it is and how hard it is. So we will be having Caroline in July. That is a little secret that you already know, so it's not a secret anymore. Let's continue now. According to you, James, what 3 qualities do you think every actor should have?
Right. I haven't rehearsed this one, and I shouldn't have really, but I would say, need to be ultimately professional, punctual, and they need to be empathic, have humility, understanding. That's just completely off the top of my head. There's lots of other things in there, but I think it's surprising how many actors and other people in the business, but actors just make fundamental basic errors, like being late is the classic one. If you're 1 minute late, it's no good saying, oh, I'm just 1 minute late. You're late, and it's like if you get, as every actor wants to be on a big film set, but if you're 5 minutes late, 1 minute late, 5 minutes late, that equates to lots and lots of money that is lost immediately if you're not ready. Yeah. And it's the same. Why should it be different for the film business? If you're working in a bank and the bank opens at 9 o'clock, you really need to be there at 8:30 to set it up, don't you? So you can't. There's no difference in the film business. So professionalism, is really important. And we get so many people applying for our roles that they haven't read the specification, the brief, basically. Mm-hmm. So they might be a man, applying for a female role, or we get all that, or someone who's 18 applying for a female role that should be 80. There's all that stuff. Very often what happens is the cut and paste syndrome, whereby they just simply put a standard application in, and they're all identical, and you can see that they haven't said dear James or dear Caroline. They've just simply had a generic approach to the whole lot. So it's just about just be professional, and about the people, the human beings on the other side of the process.
And how about the 3 qualities that every director should have?
Every director, I think you've got to be able to break down problems, because it's basically a series of obstacles in your way often, and you've got to be unflappable, which means, in my sense, you would with all this negativity and problems and challenges in front of you, you cannot back down and show to people that you don't have a belief in what you're doing on set or otherwise, because that kind of spreads like a disease if you're not careful. That sort of worry and insecurity, where if you have that in you and you're a very worried person, then that's going to spread. So you need to be unflappable. And I think you also need to be prepared physically and mentally. You need to be prepared for the rigors of it. So fitness as well, mental fitness, toughness and physical fitness too. You were commenting today. You say, "Why are you standing up?" I'm moving around. And that's one of the things about the physical side of it, is that I know, there's this thing about the director's chair, isn't there, on set, that I've never had one, and I'm pretty sure Christopher Nolan doesn't have one, but I think, you're on your feet all day, like a lot of jobs really. And so that's part of the fitness, stand up, be fit. And there's just a few fundamental things that you need to have as a director. And one of the things is not to worry too much about it either, because things will go wrong, and you need to calm down.
What project has been the hardest for you to direct?
That one was Agent Kelly, which I can hear Caroline laughing in the background, because that was basically another crazy idea where we thought, well, we just got to make something, because we were post-producing Do Something Jake at that point, and we had a gap within 3 years, and we thought, well, I'll tell you what, let's make another film, So we had this idea of this a female assassin who was tracking down, as I remember, some killers, and I decided that we could film this on a DSLR camera, quite a big thing really, and I could have the sound unit on me, and we could make it a kind of a handheld, very real documentary style production by traveling, doing our usual circuit, because we travel quite a lot from London to Spain and then back to Britain again. And there was a little circuit that we did from London Gatwick to El Maria Airport to El Ejido, which is further west, Malaga further west still, and then back up to London. So we thought this would be quite interesting, and it was a very interesting experience, but it was very, very mentally and physically challenging for me, let alone Caroline, who was this sole actor in it as well. So she was playing Agent Kelly, and I was the entire film crew. So it was completely mad, but actually kind of good, because we had a couple of other actors come out to join us in Almeria. A guy called Eddie Gallego and Chris Sanders, who was from Britain, who's now making his own films. And they joined in as the bad guys, and we came up with this kind of 75-minute film, which we're going to screen this year. Is it this year? Yeah, hopefully in September. And people, the people in the festival that we're going to seem to like it. It is crazy enough to, constitute an indie film, because it's just so unusual and so crazy. But it was the hardest thing I've done, because of the physical side of it. Operating, focusing, had the headphones on, and then I didn't have a clapper person to do the clapper, so I had this sort of counter thing that I used to click to sync in the sound with the visuals and all that kind of thing. But and also there was one particular difficulty. It was really, really hot in Spain, I think 40s, I think, at one point, and we were filming in a nature reserve, and at this particular time there was the worst plague of mosquitoes in this nature reserve for many, many years, for 20 years or something. And so I had all of these mosquitoes buzzing around my head, and the actors, Caroline and these other guys, had all of this. You hear about films that are made that have all of this environmental stuff going on, and it's great, and you look back on it and it's great, but at the time you think it's pretty tough.
A very dear and close filmmaker friend of mine, Cookie Carson, she's from Washington, she once said, "A major part of achieving my goals is knowing what those goals are." Does this apply to you? How did you get to know where you were going and what you needed to get there, and how you achieved it?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, actually, because as I said earlier, sometimes when you have a goal that's too defined, it can cause problems for some people when they don't achieve that. So I wouldn't say in Rare Films we have a very exact goal in mind, but we know the direction we're heading for sure. We absolutely know the direction we're heading. It's just to make write ever better material and to produce ever better feature films. And there's a huge difference between feature films, short films, and commercials. So it's feature films predominantly in the thriller genre for us. Although we call some of our films horror films, they kind of merge more into the thriller genre.
Okay.
So I think, we're happy with heading that route, and obviously getting as much success as we can within the genre that we're interested in. I think we have tried other things, but we kind of veer back to what we want to do with the thrillers and the good acting, dialogue, and nice camera work and all that kind of thing. And we thought of going other routes, maybe going more serious horror or found footage kind of films. But we have this particular style, and I think that's good, because it's kind of defined where we're heading, and the people out there who will compete with you with whatever you're doing, they compete as much as they like and try and be better than you. But if you have a defined style, then that's very difficult to, it's yours, you own it. So that's what I would say about that goal setting, is that you need to have your own direction, and we certainly have.
You've used smartphone technology with adapted lenses, and you've also used filming cameras. How was the experience with both of them? Let's say, what did you like most of the smartphone, and what do you like most of the filming camera?
We've used digital cameras, so not film, not celluloid. So I would like to film on celluloid one day, but so we've used tape in digital cameras, and sort of hard disk in digital cameras, and then the phones, as you say. I think for me, so if we look at the early films the documentaries we made, they were kind of like little TV cameras. And I wasn't so keen on those, because they seem to depend on sort of LCD screens, and they didn't have all of the other bits and pieces that you get when you go to more film cine kind of cameras, which have a lot more manual controls, and they're set up for getting very precise positioning of actors, talent, and all that kind of thing. And the lenses are different that you use. So I really enjoyed working with the DSLR kind of camera, which you still can buy them for a few thousands rather than tens of thousands of dollars. And the reason why I like those is that they hark back a little bit to actual real film cameras in the way that they operate. Now moving on to smartphones, I think that's it's still just another camera format, a way of acquiring an image. So, people get very romantic about or actually they get quite emotional about different camera formats. But for me, I keep a level head about it. And I think the smartphone is an excellent way of getting very, very good results in a very obviously a compact unit. But it's a different way of thinking, because on the one that I was using, everything was controlled by the screen, and that was your viewfinder as well. The thing you're looking at the image, that's how you're controlling it, as opposed to the DSLRs where there was much more control. So I think it's a different mindset, and I think it's quite exciting. In a way, I think it should stay. That its advantage is it being compact, so you can. If I was to film a horror film in this apartment here, I could run around with a phone and we could do it really easily and quickly. And indeed, people have done that. And it's very good for getting into tight spaces and turning around films quickly. But I think there are other disadvantages in that, you're just looking at everything on that screen, and you kind of, it's sometimes better to have, the physical side of a camera. And what's strangely enough happening in that respect is that people are getting their basic phone and then bolting more and more bits onto it, saying, oh, look at this is a great phone. But actually, when you look at it, it's becoming a film camera, of the traditional style. So that's my reason for saying that I think smartphones are good for certain applications. But I think the bigger the bigger they get, and the more toys that people bolt onto them, the more they would be better off buying a more film type camera anyway.
True. According to a study made by the Spanish Association CIMA, which is the Women's Film Association, between 2015 and 2016 in Spain, only a 26% of positions of responsibility in this industry in feature films, not documentaries or animation, are held by women versus a 74% that are held by men. And instead of increasing to be paired, another study in 2017 says that we have lost a 2%. Apart from that, and taking into consideration the feminized and masculinized areas in Spain, we have as masculinized areas production with a 74%, direction with an 88%, screenwriting an 87%, music 96%, doc 93%, editing 80%, sound 93%, and special effects 99%, versus feminized areas, which are wardrobe 86% for women, makeup and hair 72% for women. How is this similar in the UK?
Well, I did look into this a little bit today, and I contacted a guy called Stephen Follows, who does a lot of research in this kind of area, into the statistics in Britain and elsewhere. And to be honest, the amount of data is mind-boggling. There is so much information on this, and it's difficult to ascertain exactly what is going on. But I have to say that from those figures, Yassmine, that you've read out there, the situation in the UK is also bleak. It's either as bad or worse, or at least it was back then. Because one thing about these figures I've noticed is that they tend to range from 2014, 2015 to 2017, 2018, that kind of area. And if you think of all of the tumultuous things that have happened since then with the Me Too movement and all of the issues of diversity, inclusion, and all of those kind of Black Lives Matters, Me Too, all of that Weinstein stuff, it would be very interesting to know what the situation is now. In these countries. I think it must have improved quite a lot, and there is a lot of work going on, I know, in Britain to redress the balance. Now that an Oscar winner with Chloe Zhao for Nomadland, I think there's an example of, traditionally, I think film directors, for example, is perceived as kind of a male role for some ridiculous reason, which I can't fathom out for the life of me. But what they're saying about having a female director at that level and producing that great work and winning the Oscars and all that is that it sets a fantastic example for other women in the field. And the only thing I'd say about this is, why can't it be across the board? So, for example, why can't producers and screenwriters, female producers and screenwriters, also be looking to, redress the balance? And also, for example, the electrical department, the, manual sound operator, sound design, or post-production, across the board, because the director is only one component of the equation. And to be honest, I think I've said it publicly on Twitter a lot, is that women need to get the power positions in this industry in order to have influence, I would have thought. So the executive producers, the producers, those people effectively commission the films and hire the talent, hire the directors, and it filters down from there, I would assume. And that, someone can tell me if I'm wrong about that online, but that's what I would do. I'd put people, women, in the power positions, and why not? I mean, in Britain, the problem here is that it's, as far as I'm concerned, there's still the same people in the industry that have been there for donkey's years in some of those top positions. Not all. They are redressing the balance, but why take your time? Women can clearly do all of these jobs easily. So put them in those positions. Let's see how we go. There are, as you've outlined, there are plenty of positions dominated by men within that set of figures there. I mean, it's interesting. The makeup and wardrobe is kind of dominated by women, isn't it? That end of the scale. Certain jobs are dominated by women, and then you go down to other sectors like electrical, and there's hardly any women in that sector at all. So, let's get female directors, let's get female executive producers and producers, of course, but also all the way down the scale to the electrical department. If we're going to go for equality, gender equality, then why can't it happen at that electrical level and all the way up to what are considered to be the more prestigious jobs? Personally, Raya Films and what we've done has been interesting in this respect, in that we're quite flattered, really, and that people say we're quite. They've said we're quite. Thanks for being inclusive and diverse. I mean, we just don't know. We don't know how that has come about, but I suspect it's because we're clearly a team. Caroline and I. With Caroline is effectively in the driving seat as in terms of the creating the material and producing. It's what I say. I'm just the director who takes the material and realizes it technically. But the money has to be found by Caroline. The material is written by her. So we're clearly a female influence business. And it's surprising, actually, when I look at it in more detail, how many businesses are not like that. How many film companies in Britain are not actually like that. They when you look at their the board, I guess you call it, or they're all men. So no surprise that this situation is happening, but it just makes common sense. Women are equally capable of doing all of the jobs, in my opinion, in the film business, and there is no physical constraint either. That I see, we've employed women to do. Sometimes the men have not in my film set. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes the men have not been physically capable of doing certain jobs, and Carol and other women have had to take over, when we're under pressure. And so that's a good thing, it's just, we're completely open-minded about the people we employ and whatever background they come from, so, but it's surprising where prejudice and that kind of uncomfortable feeling in industries like this, can rear its ugly head. And you, Caroline and I have got our radar on for anyone who has any of that sense about them, and we simply won't work with them.
Yeah. Another interesting thing to talk about is auditions. Okay, here there's this great controversy between professionals in the industry, because you have directors, filmmakers that they consider auditions very much necessary. It's a must. They cannot imagine a project not being done with an audition with the actors. There are others that consider that with the reels and the talent's experience and a face-to-face meeting or an online reading, cold reading, is enough to know if that person is fit for the role or not. Because obviously, like we spoke previously, you are under pressure. There's a lot of people. The outcome can be much better if it's a one-to-one thing, that there's no one outside waiting to come in, and you have all your time, and you can really feel more comfortable auditioning. So my question is, do you agree with this? Do you usually do your auditions yourself, or do you usually use the service of a casting director?
We don't use casting directors at the moment, but for the bigger films on the horizon, we will have to do that simply because to secure the talent that we require at that level, we would only be able to do that through a casting director. It's the way the industry works. But we're very open for our other films for people to apply directly, and we don't go through any particular website. Sometimes we will perhaps put a call out on a particular website, but we're not specific about anything. We also don't stipulate that actors have to have any particular qualifications or be subscribed to any particular website or anything like that, organization. So we're just looking for good people and good talented people. That's all it is. In terms of the self-tapes, obviously with the lockdown, we have been getting people to do self-tapes, and it is a very good process because they can gives actors a chance to, unlike La La Land interview, it gives actors a chance at a couple of goes, and they can feel that they've given their best, and then they can also interact with someone that they feel comfortable with in order to deliver that. The problem arises, though, in my opinion, in an ideal world, I'd like to get actors to do self-tapes and then follow up with a live audition.
True.
The reason for that is that you mentioned the pressure of being in an audition, but that is part of the process because very often on set, there is much more pressure than there is in an audition. So
it's a different pressure. I'm talking as an actress. It's a complete different pressure.
Yeah.
The pressure of I am competing with other actors and I want this job. It's a complete different pressure than I am on set and okay, it's the day we have to work. It's a complete different pressure.
Yeah, that's right. I think I still see the value of seeing someone face to face.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah. I think there's so much that you can learn, and it's difficult to describe. And it's like if we were sat in your front room having this conversation, there would be a different dynamic, and you would learn more about someone face to face, obviously. But also, I think with an actor, you're not just looking at the dialogue and the way that they interact with the computer. It's all sorts of little nuances and things that you look for, including movement. So, the first thing I look for in an audition is someone that opens the door and walks in, and then sits down. What does that look like? Because movement is such an important part of feature film, and accuracy, and I think whether that can indicate whether they have a kind of presence in their physical presence, as well as all of the vocal side and the vocal delivery and all of that, which we're looking for. So if in an ideal world, I think, yes, self-tapes are great, but in an ideal world, I think the face-to-face auditions are really good too. But I hate the thought of having actors just come in if they've really got no chance. I think that's a ridiculous situation. So I think the process of doing initial self-tapes, follow up by so you're successful through the self-tape stage, then you go through a live audition. I think that's the best thing.
There's this thing that I don't really understand. For me, I consider it's an issue, but not only for me, but I also think it might be an issue for many other actors who especially are starting or haven't got jobs lately. So it's a big deal of money, which is the affair of Spotlight in the UK. Most actors I've heard and I've read, for instance, it's very hard for them to get agents if they're not in Spotlight. It's very hard for them to audition if they're not in Spotlight. And there's one thing that I would love to say, which is to all these people who consider that it's a must to be in Spotlight. Not everyone can allow themselves to spend around £200 a year to be in Spotlight, because that money is needed for something else. So I just think that putting Spotlight as a must, I just think it's just a bit over the top.
Yeah, well, I think it's unacceptable and bad practice in the industry. And if people are talking about inclusion and diversity, then they need to look at that process. Because
Yeah.
effectively it's almost restricting the ability of talent outside of the mainstream to come up and to have access to those opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
It's an unfortunate situation that in Britain and probably elsewhere there are a lot of filters that
Yeah.
the industry uses to get rid of people basically who they do not deem to be worthy of their wonderful productions. But I think it's a terrible situation. I think with rare films, if we're going to put a call out, if we're going to use a casting director, which we will in the future, we will stipulate that it's, we don't want to be blocked by, we want to be completely open, and we don't want to be going through certain channels which preclude talented people from rising up. I mean, we've selected some, in Casting Kill, which is coming up, we've discovered some actors who are astonishingly good, and it's unbelievable that they haven't been picked up before, and that's probably because they don't have the spotlight, they don't have a track record, they don't have this, that, and the other. But they've approached us, or we've approached them. They've approached us outside of those systems, not just Spotlight. And we're really grateful that they did, and they're going to do really well, I think. This will be. But you've just got, again, I think as an actor, it is difficult. I think you've got to look everywhere and try and get yourself known by doing a very good piece of work, and also look internationally as well. Open your mind.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, this is something I always tell my fellow actors. Don't think only of working locally. Just work.
Yeah.
You have a job that allows you to work anywhere in the world. Why would you just want to stick to where you live? Or the country, or your country. It's. I don't know. I just find it bizarre.
Well, it is bizarre, but then you speak 4 languages, Yassmine, and you're well travelled, and you've got an incredible background. You're more interesting than I am by a long shot. But I think I flatter you, of course. But I think I say to actors and to anyone in this business, this is not a comfortable business to be in. If you're the sort of person that likes a comfortable armchair in your television programs at a certain time, and you like to go walk the dog on Sunday, and that's wonderful. But if if you just want to remain in that routine, then maybe this isn't the world for you. And then I would imagine you can ask any Hollywood actor, A-list Hollywood actor, that is definitely the case. You often see these behind the scenes footages of, it's just one guy with a boom, and then there's a woman reading the script, and then there's a boat with the A-list actor, and they're going like this, and it looks like an indie film. It's 3:00 in the morning in some foreign land, but it's great. That's what this is, but it's not a comfortable existence, really. And I think
it isn't. You really have to be passionate about the industry, because that's how I started when I was very young, theater, but school theater and things like that. But when I came back at the age of 52, it was just, by chance that a friend of mine told me, well, I have a friend who's shooting a short film this weekend, and he needs people to do stand-ins and this and that. It's about the Exodus and this and that. Would you want to come? I said, okay, well, I have nothing to do. It was February. Now you know Andalusia, so this is the Los Acornocales near Tarifa on the mountains. It was around 5 degrees Celsius. It was really, really cold. The mist, everything. Obviously, you are a stand-in. You are not entitled to have certain attention. So the first day, it was 2 days shooting. The first day, I was so cold that when we finished at 6 in the afternoon, because it was already dark, I drove quickly to Decathlon. I bought myself all my gears. I got myself a cooler, well, not a cooler, to have my coffee. And I the next day, oh my God, I even took my chair, my beach chair. I took all my stuff. I sat there and waited when it was my turn. I was just like a diva. And despite all that, and so many hours in the cold, despite all that, I loved it. And I just decided, I want to pursue this.
Yeah,
so
it's strange.
Yeah.
I think that's a really great thing about acting, I guess, is that you never quite know what you're going to be doing, isn't it? And in so diverse kind of situations you can find yourself in, usually pretty funny when you look back. But yeah, I think the hard, cold mornings and all of that kind of stuff, you might not feel so good at the time, but looking back, those are the fun bits, really, very often, and you'll laugh about it later on. But you've got to get through it. I would say to people, it's probably going to get pretty rough. And
there's the other part, which is the fun part for the director, not for the actor. When the actor already knows what he's going to be doing and how he's going to be doing it, because he has already received the instructions, etc. And then we shoot the first, we shoot the second. All of a sudden, the director, boom, had something appearing in his mind and says, no, we're going to change this. And you're there, what? Yeah, we're going to change this. Not only are we going to change the whole thing, you're going to say something else. I said, excuse me? Yeah, you have to say something else. This is not working for me. So, shoosh, it did work for you when we were doing all the rehearsals. Yeah, but the cloud, the light came up right when you were talking. So that's the fun part for us, that we have to change the whole concept because the director just had an illumination that moment, said, we have to do it this way. And of course, at the end, everything comes out well. But it's, it's sort of like, just imagine you are there behind the camera, you're shooting, and all of a sudden, and I'm talking and I'm doing my thing, and all of a sudden I say, no, now we are going to be doing this. Okay, now I'm going to be doing this, and you're going to be moving the camera here because I like it. But just imagine all that. And so all of a sudden your brain just goes.
Yeah. No,
calmly saying, okay.
Yeah, I try to.
But I don't understand it's inside. We say, oh, hi, okay, fine. Oh, yeah, great. But inside, it's, I want to kill you. But okay. This is something maybe you didn't know, but this is how we feel at times.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I think, when you're behind the camera, you have a totally different perspective of the rigors that actors are going through, and the various insecurities, and they're nervous or cold or tired or whatever. But I tend not to change things radically if I can help it, because we have to try and stick to some sort of plan. But the weather or circumstances often dictate that you do have to change quickly and say, okay, throw that out, we're now doing it this way, or can you improvise it? And then most actors really enjoy a challenge, and I think that's great. But it is a tricky business. But I think, mad though the directors might seem at times, it's always best to try and keep on their side and go that route, because you never know. There's probably method in their madness, and it might come out really well. It might not, especially if it's a bit random, the ideas that are being thrown around. But there was a film, I can't remember, it's called The Lobster. I haven't seen it. And it had all of these A-list actors running around fields doing funny things. And I think it was one of the actors said, does anyone know what's going on? This is like a Hollywood movie, big cameras everywhere. And apparently it was chaos. But I saw the film trailer on Amazon the other day. I thought, I must watch that. It looks quite good. I quite like the idea of an experimental film, especially if it's got these great actors in it. But apparently they didn't know much about what was going on. I think that was Colin Farrell who kind of mentioned that it was a bit challenging on set.
Yeah, it's a bit weird. It's weird, but as you said, the creator is the director. He knows what he's doing, and he better know what he's doing. As I say, I'll go for it. Just as long as you know what you're doing, it's okay with me. But that doesn't mean that we don't want to kill you.
No, we accept that. We accept that this is not a popularity contest, And I dare say there are many people, hi everyone, that who hate me out there. But the main thing is that we're getting these films out there, and people seem to like them, and we're going to keep going. I think the director position is a bit like a manager, really, isn't it? I think often I think the director role is overblown in the film business. Again, people are going to shoot me down for saying this because they're supposed to be creative geniuses, but I think it is a process. There's a lot of creativity in there, but you also need to be sensible about it, and sensible about your limitations of Director's job is to work within the limitations of the budget and the weather and the talent that is working with and all those other things, and those pressures can build up. And you know, that's why sometimes directors do funny things or make funny decisions on set.
Have you ever thought of, or are you planning, or consider in doing acting classes yourself to be able to understand how an actor feels?
Not really. I don't feel that it's my field. I can understand where you're going, in that I might learn something and you know, help me direct actors better, so you have that experience. But it kind of works the other way as well. I think it was Clint Eastwood that said that you know, it's great working with actors who have directed before, because they can see the problems that the directors are going through, you know, on set. So it works the other way as well. I could ask you, have you ever considered directing? And for me, I think I have done.
Yes, the answer is yes.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, it's a difficult question for me, because I have done some acting when I was very young, and I knew at that point it wasn't for me. So you know,
you did know, although you already knew at that time that it wasn't for you, you did know how you felt as an actor, even if it wasn't a long period, but at least you knew what it was being an actor. I mean, the feeling, you know, that pressure of, I hope what I'm doing is what he or she wants from me.
Yeah, definitely.
That doubt, you always have that doubt, even though you have the director who's saying, hey, it's cool, it's great, you're going well. As an actor, you do have that doubt. I could do better. I could do this. I could do that.
Yeah, there's. Oh, I'm fully aware of the actor. I've worked with hundreds of actors, I suppose, now, and I'm fully aware of the actor responsibilities and duties, and the insecurities that many people have in acting. It's not unusual for the arts and performing arts for people to be quite shy and insecure about what they do, you know, even at the top level. So yeah, I'm well aware of that, and I can spot actors who are nervous or worried from a distance these days, and I'm fully aware of that. But sometimes it's just a matter of, you know, you can say a few things to put them at ease, but really it's part of the discipline to, as an actor, to get over your nerves and learn to control them, and to put your insecurities aside, and to perform as it is with an opera singer. And there are certain processes that you need to do. And if you need to do voice exercises in the green room, or just pace up and down, or read a book, or listen to your music, whatever it is, that you need to find that out. It's like playing professional sport. It's like singing professionally, whatever you're doing. Acting's no different. And then if you're working with a good director and a good team, they will be understanding of that. So yeah, I mean, I think I have my approach, which isn't perfect, but at least I know this sort of field well now. And I also did music performing reasonably well, because that's another very difficult area where, you know, you haven't got much support when you're I'm not a solo singer or anything like that, but singers who go up there and do this amazing stuff, I mean, really, they're on their own, you know. It's an incredible achievement, you know, that what they do. And I think when you're an actor on set, just remember that people are there to help you and support you. You know, they want, you know, the director especially. I mean, the director might be doing funny things or saying funny things or whatever, but ultimately, I would have thought, unless it's some lunatic, that person wants you to look absolutely brilliant, the best you possibly can on screen, and that director will not be on that screen. And when the applause comes from the audience, a lot of the mainstream audience, like down the local cinema here, they won't know who the director is, but they will definitely know who the actors are. So it's an interesting dynamic, the director-actor relationship.
Yeah, it is. Tell us, what are your favorite genres as a filmmaker, and which ones are as a spectator?
Well, I think as a filmmaker, I really like. It's quite simple, really. As I said before, I like thrillers. Those kind of '90s thrillers that were coming out, and not just the big Hollywood ones, but also those European kind of films. We've seen a lot of them in Cannes, and I don't like to go too much into. I like horror movies if they're not too gory, so I'm not particularly keen on slasher films. So I kind of like the horrors and thrillers. I like. There was a film called Get Out. That's a good example of a film that I thought was very unusual. It was kind of a thriller and a horror as well, but it had a lot of different unusual aspects to it. And I think really it's quite simple that those are the kind of films I like to see and hope to make that kind of genre. But just trying to think, I do well. I mentioned La La Land, and I like musical Hitchcock style films, old style films, and sometimes I just like to switch off and watch an action film that hasn't got much of a story to it, but it's still great fun to watch, as is proven by their massive popularity, So, yeah.
And which actors or actresses or both would you like to work with, and in what genre? And we're talking about national or international actors and actresses.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's so many, but in an ideal, they're so good as well. I think Marion Cotillard, Jessica Chastain, Mark Ruffalo, Jake Gyllenhaal, all the top ones, Michelle Williams, just so many. And I think with those actors, they're not only really talented, but you can see that they must have worked really, really hard, and almost to the point of obsession sometimes to get into character, not get into character, but to really learn about the particular characteristics of their role, their character. And again, it goes back to really professional, really talented, and when you see them interviewed, often they seem like really good people. I think Ryan Gosling's got a lot going on as well. He's just seems to be very, very talented. He doesn't seem to do much. The very good actors, in my opinion, make it look easy, but it definitely is not easy.
No, it's not. It's not easy at all. It is known that in this industry, it's hardworking, persistence, having the right contacts, and loads of luck. What would you tell your past you and your future you?
Blimey. I would tell my past you to be careful with whom you keep company. I think you really need to be selective about who you work with. Got to be committed, professional. The main thing of all is to be trustworthy. You've got to trust people. And I have to say that there are a lot of people in this business that you cannot trust. It's probably the same in many other businesses, but I don't have any regrets on that. We've done what we've done, but I think what I have learned is that I should have perhaps been a bit more discerning about, who we got involved with, not in the acting sense necessarily, but in the periphery, producers that perhaps we shouldn't have got involved with, people that have come along and said that our screenplay needs changing, and it definitely does not. They needed changing, and they needed to be more professional. But so I'd say to my future you is to stick to the principles that I've learned from my past you, which is basically, be determined and keep persevering, but use all of that experience and use it wisely this time, because I have been, we're all self-critical, of course, in this business, but use the experience that I've got wisely, and mix with people who you can trust. That's what I would say. I think there are a group of people that have been with us from the start. It's a very small group, but they have persevered with us, but had belief in us. And you often find in the film business, like some producers and directors tend to work with the same actors over and over again, and you think, well, and same crews and cinematographers and so on, and that's because they it's not because they want to make the same kind of films. That's not the equation. It's just that they know that they can trust those people. They know that they will get the film made under all the pressures and through all the adversity, and that's something that I will endeavor to do in the future: seek out good people and then work with them continually.
Yeah, I always say that the closer you get to the people you work with, and the more chance you have to get to know them, and the better the outcome is. And it is true that there are a lot of not only producers but also directors and actors that and we're talking about the tech team behind the camera who do all usually work with the same between them because of that symbiosis that has been created, and you already know. For instance, if it was our case, I know how it's just like Penelope Cruz with Almodovar. She knows Almodovar. She knows how he is. She knows what he wants in every scene, so it's easy for her, right? Yeah. But obviously, it's easy for her because she knows him. If she hadn't had the chance to know him, she would never know this, because obviously we're talking about a more intimate friendship way of knowing the person, the professional that you're working with, because obviously you don't act the same way around people you don't know than people you do have, who are very confident and you already know because you have a friendship with them. It's completely different.
It's a great example. Yeah, that's a really good example. I think there's some in Europe. We're real fans of European cinema and those films, and that it feels like more of a family, than say the UK and America, and the very creative and unusual films that come out. But it is about getting to know people and relationships. Sounds corny and a bit like a cliche, but you really need to know who you're working with, because invariably things go wrong, and then you see what people are made of. On film sets, it can be dangerous as well. If you see on these big film sets, people are messing around and there's action happening, there's hot lights and equipment and cables everywhere. You need to trust people. They need to be on your side. So that's why some people don't realize when they come onto the film set, they think, oh, it's actually not what I thought it was. I thought it'd be really fun and crazy, and actually there's a lot of standards and procedures, and people
there is, and you do need to follow them. I mean, for the sake and safety of everyone. But there is another thing that I have lived a lot of times on set, which is the divanism of actors, for instance, or even some filmmakers. And it's okay, hi, oh hi, and okay, we're going to shoot. Okay, I already said hi to you, so I'm not going to talk to you anymore during the whole shooting because I already said hi. Well, no, I mean, we're a team. The only way the team can give, we're talking about teamwork because, fortunately for myself, I've worked in sales, international sales, for 30 years as a manager. So I know how it works, and I know how to direct teams. And in order for the goal to come out as it's supposed to be, you need teamwork. Teamwork can only exist if there is unity. There's no such thing as a diva. I mean, you can be a Hollywood star. Great for you. I'm so happy for you. But here we are all working same hours.
Yeah.
We are under the lights. If we are cold, we are all cold. If we are hot, we are all hot. And if we are tired, we are all tired. And if we're hungry, we're all hungry.
Yeah, I think
that's the point. But I find that in actors, regarding the actors, which is my area, that's one of the hugest and most difficult role the director has, to make everyone feel as equal, no matter what your payment status is. And I find it's very hard for a director. Some directors don't do it. Their divas are their divas, and the rest is the rest. And I have other directors that they have put divas in their place.
Yeah, that's right. I think, well, it is a glamorous business, and some people are seduced by that. But from our background, we've come up from nothing anyway, and we're continuing to gradually, I guess, scale the peak. But so we don't have any of that about us. And I think also it's the crew as well. It's like you need to. I try desperately on film sets, our little film sets that we have, to make sure that I've said hello to people, and that I try and be nice to everyone. And it's difficult when there's so much is going on, and so you can't always remember, oh, did I say good morning to this person and not that morning. But I think people get a sense of whether you're a good person, and whether you're being level-headed. I think that's what we're talking about. And if people are going to get, especially now, when there are so many films made and it's such a competitive business, everyone needs to be on a level, and treat, whether you're an A-list actor or you're the electrician or the tea maker on set, they all get treated the same, as you rightly say. Yeah. I think apparently Keanu Reeves is someone who's really good like that. I don't know. I've never met him, but he apparently really gets on with the crew and everyone, and he really helps, and he's a hard worker, as we know. But so people like that we need, don't we? You don't need an attitude. And I think maybe if a director is hanging out with some really cool, successful actors, it makes them feel good for a while. But you've got to be careful you don't, as you say, give preference and then make yourself look like someone that you really want to be hanging in with. So what a business, eh?
No, it is. It's all, it's just, I describe our business as going on a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Because you have your ups and your downs, and the emotions are all over the ground, like I say. See, it rhymes. It even rhymes. You have your ups and downs, and your emotions are all over the ground. And it's true. That's how it is. What are your hobbies, apart from directing, obviously? You like fish? Do you like to read? Do you like to play any games, any sports? You just like to lazy down or whatever? What?
Well, I watch a lot of films. But apart from that, I do a lot of reading these days, and also I play the guitar and do a bit of recording. I'm quite interested in Spanish music, so I listen to, well, not Spanish music, Latin-based music. So I listen to a lot of that kind of stuff. A lot of creative things. I used to do a lot more sports, like skiing and windsurfing, to quite a serious level, but due to time constraints and injuries and things like that, I just don't find the opportunity to do much of that at the moment. I hope that will change. Traveling as well. I love to, Caroline and I love to just take off and go to just places we haven't been before, and we plan to do that next year when things open up, hopefully. So I don't do anything outrageous, but I've got a solid group of interests that keep me ticking along. And also, I think it gets you away from this business. I think if it means a lot to me, obviously, that we're doing this, and there's a lot to achieve, but I think there are other things I can do as well, and certainly Caroline can do. And that gives you a bit of strength, because if you want it too much, it can that can sometimes show. You've got to. It's if you back off a little bit, it's a bit like when you're playing a game of tennis. If you try too hard, you might get outplayed by the other player who's a bit more laid back. So you've got to want it, but you've also got to look at it in perspective. But there is so much work to do to make a feature film that ultimately, as I said at the very beginning of this chat, it's really got to be in your blood. And as I say, if you want the comfy life, it probably isn't going to happen. I could be wrong.
Absolutely. Well, time has come for you to talk about Casting Kill.
Casting Kill.
Okay, we want to know how the creation starts, the creation part, and all the way to the imminent filming that's going to be taking place in short.
Yeah, well, ultimately, this film came about through the lockdown, in terms of we needed a project that we could essentially put together quickly and didn't require many locations and a big cast and all that kind of thing. So I came up with this idea of this kind of Hollywood mogul who carries out auditions. And I can't tell you too much about the plot, but you've heard that before, haven't you? But I think the idea is it's quite a contained film in that it's got very few locations, very small cast, and thus a small crew, and myself to implement it. And Caroline's come up with this great screenplay, which I think the latest draft is, 78 minutes. It's probably going to end up being about 82 minutes or maybe a bit more. But that's a full-length feature film, and I don't know, that we thought with this one we'd just have fun and do, like I was saying, do what we feel is true to us. And I think the thriller, merging into the horror genre is a nice position for us. And also with this, we keep saying, well, this Hitchcockian vibe to it, this feeling of going a little bit more retro. And I think what we're doing there is, because I think there are a lot of other people making very good horror films and thrillers, which we're just going to get mixed up in the competition and perhaps not do what we're good at. So we've got this kind of style going on to kind of yesteryear a little bit. So all the costumes will be fantastic, and it will have a few nods to the sorts of things that Hitchcock did in his film, we hope. And in terms of the production itself, though, it's going to, as I said before, hopefully hinge on all of the experience that we have in the past with our sort of run and gun films, where we're running around with these cameras and doing things very quickly. A lot of them were perhaps a bit too ambitious, but as I say, we learned a lot from those. But this one's very different. It's got a very distinctive style, look and feel about it, and we're taking a lot more time with the actors to make sure that they feel comfortable in the performance, and that their lighting and all of the production, all those little bits are taken care of. And the movement, we have to, before, it's so important for actors to understand how to move, and as well as the dialogue, because it's a good one for actors because it's heavily dialogue based. So yeah, it's very exciting, and we're building it up now, and we hope to shoot in August. It might slip, but this is what happens. We don't know at the moment. In the next few weeks, we'll get a schedule together which defines which block of the summer we're going to shoot it in, and who's going to be involved, and where we're going to shoot it as well. Be shot somewhere in England, we think.
Since it's going to be Hitchcockian, are you going to do a Hitchcock? I call a Hitchcock when you do a cameo. So
that's an interesting one. I'll have to ask the boss about that. But I did appear very.
You have Hitchcock who used to do it. You have Stan Lee who used to do it, and the only one I think alive now. Well, no, Tarantino did it also.
Yes, he did.
But another one that is very, very good at it, and I think that each time he's getting his cameo longer and longer text too. He's becoming an actor, not a cameo anymore, which is Michael Night Shyamalan. He goes in all his films. The last one, which was The Visit. I mean, I think in multiple. I think he was just there, a whole 10-minute talking to the doctor and looking at the computer. So I said, he's becoming an actor now.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, I really can't see a role for myself in Casting Kill unless I get killed. I just don't know. I think.
Hey, you could be a dead body.
I would happily be a dead body. Yeah. Okay, I did have a very fleeting cameo in Agent Kelly. So when people see that, they'll see my great performance. But unfortunately, I didn't have a dialogue role. So, but I thought I was great.
Well, why not? Why not? I assume you have all the cast and everything is ready for shooting in August.
Yeah, that's right. I think we pretty much have all of the cast. The problem is who's available. I keep saying to everyone, everyone seems to be interested, but it like a lot of films where a lot is at stake, it can depend on who is available in the particular slot. And of course, things change. And now we're kind of waiting a little bit to
Yeah, because
you
this
know,
is in August, right?
yeah, and it's not such a bad time, but because a lot of people seem to be on, able to take holidays at that time if they're not full-time professional actors. But yeah, most of the lead cast are predominantly professionals, so it's a bit of a, and some of the other actors are coming in who have day jobs and that kind of thing. So once again, at this kind of indie film level, we have to juggle dates and accommodate people and see if we can get the best talent in a particular slot. But the problem is it's in this business, like they say, there's always a danger of delay, and you have to say at some point we're going to shoot. So at the moment we think it's August. It could come forward or go back, but we're not sure. But at some point we'll say we've got to go, and then if we have to change some of the cast and crew, then unfortunately that might happen. But that's the nature of the beast.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it's in August, I'm free, so
I thought that was.
You never know. Just in case I'm free. In August, I'm free. I mean, I'm shooting. I'm finishing now in June, so I'll be free in August.
You are so persuasive. I tell you, it's like as I say, you're going to have to talk to the boss now, and you'll be talking to him.
Yeah, I'm going to have to talk to Caroline because I know you're not the boss. So no, you're definitely not. I mean, I don't. When in a home, there is no man boss. We make you believe you are, but no.
Oh yeah. You believe anything? Yeah.
Yeah. How was the confinement, the lockdown in the UK for you guys, and how did it affect you, not only personally but professionally? I mean, the lucky part was that you were able to create Casting Kill, so that's a good thing. But apart from that, how was it?
It was pretty bad actually, and it's funny that we see a lot of people saying how hard their lives have been under the lockdown, and they have genuinely. There's some heartbreaking stories about what's been going on, and but we tend to keep quiet about the sordid details of our life in the indie film business, because we went out to Spain. My father's got a small boat just near Almeria, and we went out to Spain for 2 weeks to have a break, do some writing and reading, and get some film work done on the computers. But whilst we were out there, the Spanish lockdown happened, and this was in March, I think, something like that. And it was really hard. And when they locked down in Spain, they really locked down, and we were restricted to the confines of our small boat, actually. And so we could effectively only go to the supermarket and back, and to the shower block and back. And we couldn't go together either. You had to be apart. So it was much more strict than the UK lockdown. And it got to be a bit scary at times, because people were deserting this marina, and there was only a few. They closed the cafes and shops and everything at one point. We had a basic food shop, and a few things, and we couldn't take exercise either. It was complete lockdown.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, you know all about it, don't you? And the thing is, we were seeing all these tweets in England saying, "Oh, we can only go out twice a day," and this, that, and the other. We're saying, try it over here in Spain. It was really hard. But then, unfortunately, we were trying to get back for all sorts of reasons. Our flights were continually cancelled.
Yeah.
So we were rebooking them immediately, thinking, we must be able to go, and trying different airports like Malaga or Almeria, or even looking at Granada or Madrid or something like that. But eventually, we kind of resigned ourselves to the fact that we'd have to keep rebooking. So eventually, we rebooked 9 flights. Fortunately, I won't go into the details. During this time, we had a medical problem, serious medical problem. Wow. And furthering our plight, as it were, to serious levels. And so we were thinking of contacting the British Embassy in Malaga to try and fly us out as a matter of urgency and all of this kind of thing. So anyway, the upshot of it was that in July, they just opened, the flights just started running again in July, I think, and this is 2020. Yeah. Caroline saw the flights that they're going from Malaga. So I went online immediately, booked one, and we got a taxi from Almeria to Malaga. 200
Wow.
euros, whatever it was, and and then flew early morning back to London. But it was a very, very difficult time,
Yeah.
and it was one of probably, well, we've had some pretty difficult things happen to us over the years, but this was up there with one of the most tricky situations. And then coming back to the UK, well, it's complicated, but we had further problems with the lockdown here, with my family being in Leicester and Caroline's ailing mother being down where I am now in the South Coast. So it all transpired to be a very difficult and often harrowing time. But I think when you've got something like the film business to hang on to, it actually helps, because if we just thought about our predicament in Spain, or when we came back here, all the family problems and logistical and financial affairs, we would probably not be mentally well. But I think that this is my opinion is the virtue of having creative pursuits, because you're always hanging on, and that's, I think, what's kept us going.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the only thing I hope is that us humans, I hope we have learned a lesson. But, well, unfortunately, here in Spain, some humans in Spain think that since our alarm is off, that COVID is off. And we have had all these beautiful, huge parties with no masks in Barcelona, Madrid, and Salamanca last Saturday.
Really?
Yes. And I was hearing a friend of mine saying, "Oh my God, I mean, if this continues like that, we're going to be locked down again." And I said, "I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be really honest. When I was locked down, I had been working from home for the past 3 years. For me, it wasn't a lockdown.
Yeah.
I didn't have the need to go anywhere. I could just be in my house. Plus, I live in a penthouse, so I have a huge terrace. I was okay. My husband, like you said, only one could go to the supermarket. I would let him go because he needed to walk and go somewhere. I didn't feel like I was closed and locked down. Oh, I was at home.
Yeah.
But like I said, I don't mind being locked down again. But there is a problem. We have to think of those people who live in small houses, who have children that cannot go out, small children.
Yeah.
You do not know what it is to have a 7-year-old or a 10-year-old at home being bossed all day long because he can't go outside. Or people who their balcony is an interior balcony. He sees his neighbor. He doesn't see outside.
Yeah.
So think about all these people. I mean, I think that this, unfortunately, we have not become more solid. How do you say it? Solitary.
Yeah. Solitary. Yeah.
Solitary, that we have become more individualistic because we only think of ourselves. We don't care how my neighbor is, if my neighbor is feeling okay or not. Or I lost my aunt during COVID. We will never know if it was for COVID or if it was just because she was 89. But 89 today is young. That's one thing.
That's right. I think, similar situation here. And
that's it.
I think
that tell you that it's not true. It's something that was made up by governments. I went through COVID for 3 weeks. I was in my bed, and my last week, I thought I was going to be in the hospital, intubated, because I couldn't breathe. And I don't care who made it up or who didn't. I can tell you how I felt and how my 3 weeks were.
Yeah, well, we can give the similar story, bereavement in Caroline's family. Caroline's had it twice. I must have had it once in Spain. Horrendous. And also other relatives were pretty much, they just couldn't breathe. It was that bad. It was like they couldn't walk. If they walk up the stairs, it's just horrible. Like you couldn't breathe for 20 minutes. So it's a serious deal. And I think the people that have not been exposed to it, as you say, need to have an understanding. I mean, there's a similar situation in Britain where people were, in the early days, they were going out to pubs and flouting the rules. But in our experience in Spain, it was when it's controlled, it's very strict indeed, which is what you need, I think, because over here, when in the early days, it wasn't strict at all, and people were just going to the socializing as normal. Some people didn't change their behavior at all. But in Spain, I think they have more control with the police force, the La Guardia and the Policia. I think there's a much bigger police presence in Spain than in Britain. In Britain, you can walk for hours here and never see one police. But in Spain, they're patrolling all the time. It's not to say that it's a police state either. They seemed friendly and you could talk to them and they were okay, but they were very strict. As simple as that. Yeah, people need to follow the rules.
True. I mean, I say that, okay, population is just like a little kid. Every now and then you have to give them a smack so they remember they're doing something wrong.
Yeah, well, it's a difficult one. Suddenly everyone becomes an expert, a virologist or whatever you call it. You know, this pandemic happens, this disease happens, and then the social media is the worst thing of all. Suddenly everyone's expert.
Definitely.
But all we can say, like yourself and from my family, is that we've had first-hand experience of it in 2 countries, and it's really nasty. And you just have to take the best scientific advice, I would assume. That's what else do we do, you know?
Yeah. Well, have you got anything else to tell us? Because we are almost through.
Well, it's been quite an experience. I'm still standing. I do stand a lot. As I
was thinking, I don't know if he's tired. We've been talking for about an hour and 50 minutes.
No, like I say, you know, on a film set, I'll be standing all day long, so it doesn't really. I must have just straight legs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm like a horse; they just stand all day long, don't they? But no, I think it's been absolutely fascinating. I definitely think you'll have a lot of fun when you speak to Caroline, because she'll probably say she'll probably correct me and tell me where I was going wrong. And
she will. I think I can't see her, but I think she was taking notes.
Yeah, I think I'm probably going to be in trouble later. So, you know.
Okay. Well, I mean, you can make it up. You fix dinner and that's it.
Yeah, I think I'll do that. Buy some flowers and No, it's been absolutely fantastic. I really nice to speak to someone in Spain as well. You know, I love Spain, and you know, it's just you know, just hearing the lingo and everything, it just takes me back. I can't wait to get back out there. Really, you know.
Well, I mean, you know, we have lovely places here where to shoot, and you know.
Yeah, we need to have a discussion about that, don't we?
yeah, we do. And I can help out with that. I can help out with. I mean, we're talking about the production area on where to shoot and how to get money for it. Even better. Yeah. So I just saw your eyes go like this.
Yeah, well, money. Indie filmmakers, mention money to indie filmmakers. Yeah. So everyone else who's listening, you know, that's my contact. Stay away.
I'm your bestie now. Yeah, James, it's been a real pleasure sharing your afternoon with us and your experience. It's so great. We hope to have you back after you shoot. Cast and kill and everything's done and we can see it and oh my God, I can just imagine it. I know it's going to be a really, really great project. The best of all is letting us all know a little bit more of you. I mean, we are some that didn't know you well, and there are others that didn't know you at all that now know you. And those who know you well, you know, they might say, well, you know, you did this, you did that, but well, whatever. We're your friends, we know you. And well, that's what friends are for, right? Really. You can follow James' career and on his social media where I always include his contact, not his phone, not where he lives, etc. Okay, it's just his social media and stuff. And I also wish to thank you all for being there as always, following us, following this interview, supporting us, because your support is very important for us. As I say, life without culture is quite boring, and we have to make the most of it. And this month, I'm going to be shooting as of Monday. I'm going to start shooting a Spanish TV series, the second season, which is a quite important TV series in Spain. And I had to shift some interviews in order not to cancel any of them, because I wouldn't want to cancel them. So our guest for tomorrow, which is not a usual day on Friday, is international Spanish actress living currently in Mexico, Patricia Barrosa, whose interview will be in Spanish. So those who want to try to follow up this interview in Spanish are very welcome to follow the interview. Don't miss it. And most of all, please be responsible, use your mask, and stay safe. Thanks to all of you. Thank you,
Thank you very
Jay.
much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.